Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Durham District School Board Special Education Advisory Committee meeting for Thursday, April 8th, 2024. Call meeting to order, and I'd like to read our land acknowledgements. The Durham District School Board acknowledges that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories upon which our school board and schools are located. Today, this area is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that the Durham region forms part of the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, the Mississauga peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation. It is on these ancestral and treaty lands that we each learn and live. I'm going to follow that up with our human rights acknowledgement. The Durham District School Board recognizes Indigenous rights are distinct. In the exercise of those rights, Indigenous staff and students shall not be subjected to actions with the aim or effect of depriving these distinct rights. The Durham District School Board is committed to learning and working environments that center human rights and equity and are safe, welcoming, respectful, equitable, accessible, inclusive, and free from discrimination. Welcome everybody, welcome to those online and on the table. Let's start with our roll call, and I will go to our left, my left. Oh.
Rowan Jarvis, Learning Disability Association, Durham.
Morgan Cameron, member at large.
Elizabeth Daniel, member at large.
Jen McLaughlin, Solana.
Spencer Renee Burrell, Autism Ontario.
Charmaine Brown, interior parents of visually impaired children.
Michelle Liverpool, K-8 facilitator.
Denise Nickerson, assistant lead.
Lisa Rod, recording secretary. Andrew McCauley, superintendent of inclusive student services.
Tara Kelly, Durham Down Syndrome Association rep and vice chair. Okay, we have regrets from Eva Kyriakides from the Association for Bright Children. We have regrets from trustee Michelle Arsenault and trustee Kelly Miller. That's it. Okay, on to our next agenda item, approval of the agenda. So a small change to our open discussion periods. So the board's general model section and the special education placement section are not ready for discussion today. So we will kind of move that out. But we do have the return draft letter of the transportation items, so we will just swap those in if everyone is comfortable with that change. If I get a motion to approve the agenda, that's Renee. Seconds. Rowan, all in favor? Okay. Right, now we have 3 minutes worth of meetings to approve. We have our minutes from March, from last month, and then 2 weeks ago we had our makeup sessions for our missed meetings due to quorum. So we have 3 sets of minutes, one from March 22nd. Are there any questions or comments about the minutes for March? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion to approve the minutes for March? Charmaine? Seconds? Rowan? Approved or? You know what I mean. I'm having a day, it's okay. All right, motion approves. Okay, carried. Yes, March, so now that we have 2 meetings on April 3rd, the first meeting was primarily about our finance and our budgeting. Any comments or questions about the minutes for that meeting? No, seeing none, could I get a motion to approve the minutes? Morgan, sorry, seconds? Rowan? All in favor? Yes, okay. All right, and the second one was our planning session for our advocacy event. So that was the main topic of the discussion. Comments or questions about that? Seeing none, could I get a motion to approve? Jen, seconds? Morgan, all in favor? 7 are staff reports.
Thank you, Stephanie, this evening. So just 3 updates for you. So thank you, and thank you to our teaching and learning team for being here this evening. I think it'll be great to augment what you heard about the literacy support plan with where we're moving in mathematics. So really thrilled that you have the chance to hear from 2 exceptional educators, Michelle and Denise, are helping lead that work across the district in a really impactful way. So we'll touch anything around the board achievement plan for math because it'll be very well covered in a few minutes. So from Inclusive Student Services, we are thrilled that the summer therapeutic recreation program that we have run for 2 past summers, you met Adam here a couple months ago when he presented on the program. DDSB has come on as a really strong, good third partner to that program, which is really excellent because it means that it really cements it as an opportunity for youth of Durham region. So when we look at a social model of inclusion and supporting families, as all of your associations do, the summer TR program is open to all youth whose programming needs align with life skills, self-care, readiness for employment. And so registration has opened, and Adam let both the Catholic board and myself know this morning. They have been flooded with interest, which is really wonderful that some families are connecting with that opportunity. To allow further access this year, we thought that there might be stronger uptake, just as you hit that 3rd year of implementation with anything. There's a bit of trust with the program foundations and word spreads through families, which is really quite wonderful. So the last 2 summers, it has been 2 4-week programs. This year, we've scaffolded it as 4 2-week programs, just in case the need is there, so we can make sure that all of the children, the youth, have opportunities. And again, they're gonna run the parallel program of the summer therapeutic rec program, and then a parallel program for youth that may not be ready to come in independently into that program, and there are supports there, but are coming with full-time caregivers because they're accessing that adolescent, early adult day program in the summer. The youth and their caregivers are able to come alongside the program in a parallel way so that they're still building those skills and accessing the activities and really building a little community out for the kids and their families. So quite thrilled with that, and feel privileged to be one of the partner organizations providing that, because inclusivity in summer programming is a challenge for districts and community for kids in terms of transportation and just program access. And again, it's a free program for families, which alleviates some of the financial pressures, as well as, because it is a full day program, it alleviates for some families having to take leaves from work for youth that are not in school during the summer. So that's really phenomenal. We are ready to share, as our schools have found out about changes to special education programs between this current year and where kind of the special education classes are in the district and how many there are in the district, and what will be in place for the start of the 24-25 school year. There weren't many shifts as we continue to work with our partners in teaching and learning to foster universal design and differentiation. Regular class remains the best and most inclusive placement for the majority of our students with accommodation needs. And we are proud to offer a range of programs as well. So as we build on universal design and inclusion in the regular class placement, you will see school support program, because it is literacy numeracy at a smaller ratio. We are closing out a couple of those programs, but there is a net additive in elementary. So we are opening, and it will not be a surprise to those of you around the table, based on the discussions we've had over the last few months in terms of youth and children of complexity, of strengths, needs, and interests coming into the district. We are opening an additional developmental program, so our students that have that full wraparound care, up to 6 students per classroom. We are opening a new developmental program. We are opening 2 new practical learning programs, so life skills, work education to that. And we are opening another structured learning class with a focus on students with autism. That's at the elementary level. And then we have 1 placement adjustment We do not publicly share the locations of our special education classes because for some of the programs that have a fairly low number, it starts to reveal the location of individual students. And so for that safety and protection, we don't release them. At the secondary level, we still had a few schools that had 2 school support programs, so one at the grade 9-10 level and one at the grade 11-12. And as we build de-streaming, which again, our colleagues are well invested in, what we want to make sure is that's an intervention and not a full high school pathway. And so 3 of those classes are closing at schools that had 2. So we have a school support class at every single one of our secondary schools across the district. We do have 2 in a priority area. 3 of the schools that had 2, the senior level is closing out because we can do it through choice and voice and interest level of courses. We are opening a new practical learning class again, so you see one open at the elementary level, one open at the secondary level. We are seeing kids come into the district at a variety of grade levels. So this is a little bit of a pull of grade 8s into grade 9s, as well as students new to the district in one of our municipalities. And then to make those adjustments, we also take a look at where our classes are currently, who's currently accessing them, and what their home addresses are, because the foundation of our model is to keep kids in or nearest to their home schools so that they can have relationships with their siblings in schools and neighborhoods and communities. And we tend to place our classes on a 3 to 5 year projection so that we're not also moving kids. But given that analysis, we do have a few of our classes that will be relocating for September, so still within the model, but just shifting location. So we are working with families to transition one of our developmental programs in the municipality of Oshawa. The school, the dev is moving out, the additional PLP is moving in based on the students, and we're locating the dev where the students are that are the majority of the class roster. One of our structured learning classes at secondary, again, the majority of the students have shifted in municipalities, so we're just making that shift up in the north. And then within the Whitby area, same thing. When we look at the needs of the students and who's accessing, a little bit of an adjustment where we're relocating a class. We do all of this with the student-centered, families in discussions and obviously conversations through school administrators, staff, families, but also in deep consultation with our teams such as facility services, transportation, budget and finance and people and culture from the staffing point are at the conversation, but really it's about how do we take students from home or where they live, safe transportation to school in an efficient way, a great experience for them meeting their needs, and then home again. And so we make sure, can we move the buses? What would be the route timing? And so sometimes where we're moving a class, it's the class location could be an either or, but due to traffic patterns, we're actually, the class relocating significantly drops the transportation time for the students, which is a really important part of what we hear back as an important part of the day too, is not to keep them on buses too long. And then that has ripples for us if it's EA supporting transportation, because it puts EA support back into the classroom, offer transportation. So lots of dynamics in a system the size that we are, but quite a tight list of changes. We are currently working through the final steps of elementary gifted. We do have a spike in private assessments, as well as participation in the group screening. And then we're keeping monitoring on secondary practical learning. We were don't we with an additional class, and we're just keeping an eye on that to see what would be the impact and maybe back to you to say that we've added enough. So deep consultation. I put in the room that it's a nominal number of changes in terms of the scope of our system. I take that back though, when you talk about individual students that are impacted in families and pathways, and so really appreciate the conversations that the Inclusive Student Services team, as well as our school partners, have in working with families on transition plans. We generally try, for example, one of the classes that is closing, there are no students impacted because we were at a point where the whole class was in transition. So there's actually no additive transition for kids, which is always lovely. So that's that. And then my final update was in your package this evening. And that is the impact update which highlights, and again, we try and move through supports, services, and programs. And so last month we heard about transition to work and those really amazing quotes from our employers that support work education. This month, highlight on work, social work. We can read and see the impacts from some parents and some youth who access the service. In addition to clarifying what social workers through the district are able to do. They are qualified tier 1 through tier 3 plus. To be honest, the work in schools does not have them able to do a lot of tier 1 work, but we're thankful that teams like Positive School Climate and a few others in the wellbeing workers are able to do that. The work of social workers is largely function on tier 3, high intervention around mental health and wellbeing. It is not uncommon for our workers to be with students or in consult with families, morning, afternoon, and evening. So if a family or a student needs service, quite often they are extending their day. I think one of the most touching stories I heard was from a social worker. A young man did not have somebody go with him for quite significant dental surgery. So she drove him and then picked up the medication and dropped him off and made sure he got the snacks. That's the extreme of the situation, but it is also not infrequent for them to be alongside parents and caregivers where students are accessing emergency health care. They will often stay alongside food security, housing security. So when we think of the relationship one-to-one in terms of that counseling and support in terms of accessing school and services, it is also the full wraparound of well-being that they look after in terms of those other items. So just highlighting the quite incredible work that team does. And that's the administration.
Any questions for Andrea? Donna?
Recognizing that you are, trying to ensure that students don't stay pretty well consistent within their home school if you can and so forth over a period of years. But I know that particularly the transition from grade 6 to grade 7 for our SEAC for classes. There's a lot, and I know there's also sort of, getting the student to be more of an advocate and be included, included. There's still some concerns of what, I know it's an individual thing, but what kind of transitions do you put in place to ensure that those students' needs are met? As I said, preference is a home school, but then if something is opening up somewhere else, can they go somewhere else?
So thank you, and I agree that is a critical transition, and so I think it's a yes and. Our teaching and learning partners have a whole team that comes in the intermediate grades looking at that 7 to 10 transitions. And then where we're looking at individual students, the facilitator working with the CERT, reaching ahead, as well as the secondary team. I think it's a bit of a churn. So a lot of the school support programs do have focus in the primary and junior grades, with students returning to regular class placement for 7 and 8. And that's done with the intentionality of as the class travels as a community rather than in 4 split quadrants of their day, that they have that support moving with their peers, with their teams. But it is largely the school teams working with the student, working with the family, and working as a department, like as a division team, to support all of the students in that grade. I think 4 to 5 or 3 to 4 can be a big jump too.
Yeah.
As 6 to 7 can be as well. I think you're highlighting one of the areas that we probably need to do quite a bit more intentional work in that transition. But it is getting the kids practice as they're in that larger class before they have that 4 section splinter in grade 9.
I know it's just an adjustment for parents as well, to that, that security of being in a smaller class and moving on, is that, we also have to provide the support for a bit, I think, for the parents, to ensure that, their child is still going to get the support at that point in time.
Very fair. And I think to the the fact that we haven't had a regular class placement brochure as well, and it's not a brochure that makes a difference for how a child feels in the classroom. But I think a lot of the conversations that we have are around what does regular class mean in terms of all of the supports that come with regular class placement. I think having that as a standard communication tool in the district will help reassure and actually have that documentation to point to for families too, to say, tell me how, in that joint conversation. So thank you for your comment.
Any other comments or questions for Kara or staff?
I have a question. Private assessments for gifted? Privately paid, community-based practitioners.
That's a thing.
It's a WISP, so anybody qualified under the College of Psychologists, which will be the College of Psychologists and Behavior Analysts as of July 1st. That community-based practitioners, it's a standardized assessment for psych qualified staff.
Okay. I did not know. Thank you. You're welcome. Just, I was like, I learned something, so thank you. That was good. Board reports. Donna, thank you for coming.
Yeah, I apologize, it's a little late, you know.
Traffic was a little bit silly.
Yeah, so also coming from practice and competition on Saturday, so, big practice. And trustee Miller is actually at an event, so she's not here, so.
Sorry. Just in case, just for, there is, Battle of the Books is going on in one of the other groups, so in case, like, on occasion, there's been some applause and cheering and things, so people are sort of hearing that in the background while streaming, that's what's going on, so.
Trustee Miller is at a school event. As far as that, and then one of the biggest things is that we do have a new trustee on SEAC, trustee Michelle Arsenault, who's a women trustee. Again, I think it was a little bit of late notice because that was as far as her to come. So I'm pretty sure she'll be here the next meeting. As far as that's concerned, our vacancy committee met, and so we're in the process as far as filling in the vacancy for Oshawa, basically a trustee. One of the things that we follow the Education and Municipal Election Act, and people that are interested don't have to reside when you're running for a trustee. You don't have to run in the municipality that you reside in. You can run as long as it's within the administrative boundary of the Durham District School Board, and you're 18 years old. You can vote. You're registered as a public tax supporter. You don't have any criminal records against you, and you're not an employee of the board, as far as that's concerned. So that should be going out in May, as far as out to the media, and will be posted as far as the trustee vacancy is concerned. Then of course we've got later on, as far as I think it's in your package, as far as the expression of interest, as far as the Human Rights Advisory Committee is concerned. And I'm just trying to think, because I've left the board package. I can't get logged on. As far as standing, we passed a particular policy around board assessment that is going down as far as that's concerned at our policy committee, so that we as a board start looking more effectively and evaluating ourselves as far as that is concerned. We have not heard from the ministry around the grants for students' needs, the funding at this point in time. Anxiously awaiting for that. We've also passed our education development charges bylaw at this point in time. And that is, for those that don't know what that is, but it's basically it's a per unit charge that is charged for when a unit is built. And one of the biggest issues we have there, and that EDCs are used to purchase the land that we build our schools on. The biggest issue there is that it's what we can charge has been capped by the Ministry of Education. From what we have, it's only at 300, even though we go through this process, when we create our bylaws, it's a five-year bylaw, we go through, we do a study and everything else. And we should be charging per unit something over $12,000. And we can only charge at this point, I think just over $3,800. And so you can see that when that comes out, that we're going to be at a huge deficit within, basically it works out in the 15-year period is the 1.41 billion. I think it's $1 billion as far as being able to purchase the land that we're going to need in order to develop the schools that we have. And so again, we've done some advocacy to the ministry as far as they really have to look at changing the EDC bylaws. And again, it's only for purchasing the land you can build. Unlike Toronto, they don't have any land to build, so they have EDCs, but they can't use it because they don't have any land to buy. So we really want them to change the way they develop EDCs, and so forth. So there's been a lot of sort of administrative work that has been done from the board perspective.
Yes, we can circulate the signed copy of the EDC bylaw. It has the breakdown, because there is an increment in each of the next 5 years.
Yes.
So based on your question, 3,749 through to April 30th, 2025, and then slight increases, but remaining under $5,000, as Don said, with the $12,000 really being the calculated what would be needed. So if SEAC would like that, Lisa can circulate it tomorrow too, if you'd like to read through that.
And it says, and what the only change that we did in this bylaw is previously we only had a residential charge. We hadn't had a non-residential charge. But this time we've now, and it's based on the best calculation we can change, but also with the maximum rate. We can change it. Unfortunately, there is a cap. We can start charging the non-residential at 10 cents per square foot. So that's what we're starting with. That's what we're starting with, because that's what we're allowed to start with. But anyways, yeah, I see Ron shaking his head, but yeah, that's what we're starting with. Yeah. Anyway, so, but again, you know, that information is available through the website as for our agendas and everything else. But I appreciate you offering to circulate, but a lot of advocacy to the ministry, and then a lot of pushing around when are the grants for student needs to come, because the later we leave it, it makes it really a difficult process to start pushing forward, especially when, you know, we had to have our legal obligations around contractual agreements with March, right? So it gets really, really dicey. We don't know what, particularly when it comes to priority grants, where it's sort of a one-time grant or over a couple of years or whatever. We never know what they're going to do with those.
Thanks, Donna. Any questions for Donna? Board reports? Yep. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 8, our presentation on roadmap for mathematical excellence, learning strategies for enhanced math achievement. Welcome to our guests, Denise and Michelle. Sorry. Please.
Thank you. Just let you cue up the right presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry, rolling that yours. Yeah.
My apologies. Sorry.
I tried to say that gently.
You're fine. You're fine. I apologize to both of you.
You just asked me to go first.
Yes.
I have a good excuse for being tired. I was modifying grad gowns last night at the gowns for grads. That'll be my, sorry, please.
That's okay, no worries, we're good.
You don't want to trade?
I could try. Are you gonna go in presentation mode?
I am, I'm just
Okay.
waiting for the header.
Okay. Well, thank you for having us tonight. My name is Denise Nickerson, and I'm the system lead for math and multilingual language learners. And joining me tonight is Michelle Liverpool. She's one of the K-8 facilitators supporting math and literacy. So thank you for having us. Good, thank you. So the overarching vision of the teaching and learning in the Durham District School Board is to create thriving learning ecosystems that prioritize student identity, Indigenous rights, and human rights in order to create conditions for all students to thrive, achieving their fullest potential. Informed by the ministry's Taking Action in Mathematics framework, school boards have been asked to develop a math achievement action plan for the 2023-2024 school year. This plan outlines the board's concrete, visible, and measurable strategies, as well as key performance indicators at the board, school, and classroom level under the following areas of focus: curriculum fidelity, math content knowledge for teaching, and knowing your student. The Durham District School Board teaching and learning vision aligns nicely with the ministry priorities as they are both developed using research-based structures. The three components of the teaching and learning plan are innovative, human-centered professional learning, humanizing the learning environment, and thriving pedagogical practices. First, considering thriving pedagogical practices in math really outlines what the process of learning looks like in the classroom. This process practices support gaining content knowledge in math. Priority action number 1 includes the intentional use of proven strategies that support academic math achievement. This involves ensuring math curriculum is aligned with best practices in all classrooms. Having math facilitators and coaches, as well as 7 to 8 de-streaming coaches, has supported implementation of best practices for classroom teachers. One example of how math is made relevant and responsive by students engaging with microbits, a coding program tool, and exploring the outdoors, which are 2 distinct ways to activate math learning. Curriculum and instructional supports in the math plan include the provision of resources such as the DDSB Math Companion Guide and the establishment of the Curriculum Advancement Committee, the purpose of which is to advocate for and provide support for school leaders in advancing the plan.
Some specific classroom level strategies include high impact instructional practices, which will be highlighted throughout the presentation in the pictures of students and educators. By drawing upon needs and highlighting how educators can add to their current instructional practices, we are seeing an increase in both educator and student growth. One example of the 9 high-impact instructional practices identified in the Math Companion Guide is small group instruction. Through the images here, we can see how an educator and math coach offer guided practice through small group instruction in ways that excite students and connect math to everyday learning. Another is direct instruction, where educators are able to seamlessly move from whole group and small group to engage in meaningful math talks while recording student thinking and sharing how they are using various representations. In this example of using tools and representations, educators provide a variety of ways to represent and understand fractions. Students use manipulatives and drawings to demonstrate their understanding of foundational concepts. Having multiple means to show understanding is a strong assessment practice that benefits all students and supports the understanding of math from concrete to abstract thinking. Contributing to the joy of math, educators continue to offer fun and engaging opportunities for deliberate practice. Captured here are the use of loose parts, whiteboards, and concept circles, which allow students to explore math across a variety of representations. Teachers are able to assess understanding through observations and conversations.
Professional learning is supported by family of school teams and also involves support from the literacy, multilingual language, equity, and inclusive student service departments, where school leaders and educators are able to collectively support according to the needs of their students. Priority action number 2 is driven by the collaborative analysis of student learning. Human-centered professional learning allows educators to identify and access resources, strategies that create personalized learning experiences for students they serve. Educators collaborate with peers and engage in reflective practices to improve their math teaching skills to impact student achievement and well-being positively. Here we see school teams collaboratively examine samples of student work and use a structured format to document descriptive observations that include insights on patterns, trends, and variations of student understanding. Teachers are encouraged to look at student trends, while members of the school improvement team or math coaches facilitate discussions on planning and next steps for programming and assessment. Throughout our work with schools, these paraphrased educator goals demonstrate the power of developing student needs through collaborative professional learning communities. A school-level strategy ensures protected 60-minute math blocks for instruction, and priority schools have dedicated vocational teachers who attend on a regular schedule so school leaders can meet with their teams to plan for students and collaborate on assessments and developing plans for ongoing student learning. Meaningful collaboration between school administrators, teachers, and math coaches allow for instructional shifts. Educators have been engaging in human-centered professional learning collaboratively, where they are identifying their next level of work to integrate content knowledge to ensure deep understanding of mathematics. By using a rich collection of math resources, educators are developing actionable steps to align thriving pedagogical practices to the diverse needs of their students. Many educators are actively engaged in developing strategic goals that allow and encourage a growth mindset, where regular reviews and adjustments to their action plans are responsive to student needs. By rooting the learning environment on who we are serving, we ensure all students are able to access their unique pathways in education through anti-oppressive practices and universal design for learning. Priority action number 3 is knowing the math learner and ensuring math tasks, interventions, and supports are relevant and responsive. The use of EP has gained traction as a digital tool that allows teachers to develop specific lessons and tasks for students, as well as interventions to support student needs and specific areas of growth.
This is an example of where student voice and making sense of math knowledge come together to show how engaging math is for students when manipulative and mathematical conversations are used together. Being able to make sense of math through talking about math and showing their understanding through manipulative representation helps to build a math community. In general, see pictures of students engaged in productive math talk while using manipulatives and working through rich tasks, which is one example of humanizing the learning environment and promoting student success.
Success measures are ongoing and the math team reports back on key initiatives, including student feedback in grade 3, 6, and 9 on I Like Math. This allows us to evaluate how we're doing and make adjustments in real time. Our closing call to action. What we hope to accomplish through this math action presentation are highlights of where all students benefit from strong collaborative math instruction, where differentiated instruction and assessment is fluid and present for all students. Teachers are supported in collaborative practices where students are at the forefront of planning and assessment, and various opportunities for hands-on learning are provided in an engaging way. Thank you so much, and we're guided by, I should have said this at the beginning, by Superintendent Mohammed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions, comments for our presentators? Good lord. Presenters. I think.
Oh, you could call
Oh,
them.
my goodness, I was rubbing off on me. Sorry. Thank you. Also that. Also that. Donna, you cranked up.
Yeah, I'm just wondering when it comes to, because we have a diverse set of learners, and I'm just wondering how much cross-curriculum teaching is around crossing math with other curriculum to embed that math learning and give that experience as well. Is that?
Oh, quite a bit. There's the fact, one of the slides we spoke about the interdepartmental, so working with the literacy department, multilingual language learners, equity department, and quite a bit of STEM. We've been working with the science department as well to really make it hands-on, to really make mathematics come alive in real ways for students, and even the outdoors, right? Let's not escape that what is meaningful for the children and what are the needs of the students. And so really keying into those individual loves and making sure that the math comes alive within what is important for the kids. Thank you for asking that.
Any other?
Yeah.
Shreya?
I see one of your tenets about humanizing the learning environment, and I see the word humanizing coming up quite a bit. How does that look with the CRRP stance? And I hear you talking a lot about the collaboration and students kind of being able to engage with manipulatives to be able to do that, but how do they see themselves within that? And how does that play out in terms of understanding self and understanding others and where math actually comes from? How does that play into your strategy?
So aligning it with the literacy is huge, right? And our math coaches going in to support teachers is really about understanding the student. And so where does identity come into what is the task that's presented? Where do the children see themselves in the math? And so making sure that it's a celebration across many identities for children in the classroom. So that's one of them. We do also work with the equity department, and that's a big part of our training. And with all of the math coaches, the K-6, and the de-streaming coaches, right up until grade 12. So that's a big part of where the children see them in mathematics and in their classrooms. We have a second part to your question.
More around the CRRP, for
Right.
instance, how does like global understanding of money, let's say financial literacy, or how we make the math come to life in terms of where they see math in their everyday life and the inequities that there are in math,
Right.
and the complexities of that, especially in the higher grades, let's say 4 and 4
Yeah.
like them being able to kind of look at their world, yes, being able to identify with math, etc., but then actually looking at where math shows up in their everyday life and the inequities that might be present in that.
So part of the tenets for the math curriculum is also the social emotional learning, where we'll see part of that come through also in global competencies. So that's a big part for the students. Also looking at financial literacy and finances in mathematics is something that the teachers are able to pull in across all of the curriculum strands. So the interesting thing about math is you can pull from a variety of strands. It's not taught in a silo of today we're learning adding and then we let that go, and today, the next day, we're only looking at data management. So what are the tenets for the activities, what are the interests of the children, and what can those coaches and teachers bring into the classroom for them to make sure that that's being portrayed in a way that is beyond just their classroom, that is actually reaching into the global competencies. I can see you looking at me, like you really want to say something too.
Yeah, and also, a lot of the facilitators and, the math coaches, we've been, having training in, critically conscious, practitioner inquiry. And, so when we go out to schools, we really, talk about that criticality piece and really, when we're talking about math, we really work to include, the anti-oppressive, practices and explore when we're working with educators and make sure that they're including that, understanding, as part of their lessons and units that they're offering the students.
I think as well, when we look at mathematics practices in the classroom and we look at intersection of identities and where students present in terms of interests, lived experiences, exposures, as well as neurodiverse learners and where that intersects. I think Denise and Michelle spoke beautifully around the intention of the learning activities. It's on the flip side too, in terms of really looking at our assessment practices, and particularly in math, where we've had kind of a standard practice, education log standing in terms of written text, multiplicity of demonstration of a skill, where the conversation with teaching and learning with educators is, how do you know what a student's demonstrating, what feedback you're giving them? But then, to your point, Charmaine, around the movement to conversations, observations, and products, examining for bias in terms of how you're evaluating that. So if you're going to be evaluating through conversation, as an educator, how does your identity and your experiences and bias that you bring to that impact how you're filtering that through conversation, observation, and products to really make sure that you're identifying that and putting that into the context to the betterment of and benefit to the child. And that's where I think teaching and learning's engagement in that collaborative analysis of student work is really creating conditions where educators can push and reflect on that, because it's the teaching and the learning, but then also how are we providing students feedback, making next structural decisions, and evaluating students, because at the end of the day, there's still going to be some kind of summative assessment or evaluation. We want to make sure that classrooms are not going to be bias-free. We want to make sure that we're accounting for that as well, so right through the process, if you don't mind.
No, that's beautifully said, and brings back in the universal design for learning. It's where's the student voice, where's the agency, and how is that showing up in what the teachers are able to bring to the classroom and to the desks of the children.
Yes.
Ron, and then.
I was just listening and heard terms such as best practices for the students. As someone that sort of represents the students with LBs, is there a different approach, a teaching approach to those students? What does that typically look like?
So what we tried to show tonight is that within a variety of approaches in the classroom, you are going to be able to bring out the strengths of all the students. So humanizing learning is knowing your students. And so as the teacher is gathering, what do I need to teach next? Right? It's not turn the page in the textbook. It's who are the students in front of me? What does the curriculum tell me needs to be taught? And knowing them so well in their learning styles and what are their goals, I can tailor within all of these representations and activities that I can produce within my classroom to be able to bring out the best and bring out the joy, right? And so again, I'm gonna say about the observations, conversations, and products. If we look at how we were traditionally taught, it was really about product, right? Like, what is the task? How many questions can you finish? Can you show me a finished product? And where was the talking, right? Where was the conversation and observe? And then, hey, tell me how you arrived at that. What does that look like? Tell me what your thinking was about, as opposed to just having a child be able to show it through a paper or pencil. But engaging in that math talk, what you can pull out of the application and thinking and understanding from students' knowledge in mathematics is a lot richer than just having them put it on a piece of paper. And that's where you're gonna see some of your children that are showing learning disabilities, that it will come out in ways that they can talk math forever, even if I can't put it down on paper, right? But I can talk about it, and that for me is a lot more powerful than just being able to write or complete an logarithm or an algebra equation, right? So that's one of the most powerful things about the math. Thank you for asking that, yeah.
So my question's gonna bring us back to that humanities identity. I heard you speak about having an equitable, diverse lens. When I think about that, I think about the different styles and theories to teaching that, as well as some of those manipulatives that can represent different cultures, like cowrie shells and cola nuts were used in West Africa for money, right?
Yeah.
Instead of little red dots, right? I mean, the colorful dots are good for, they serve their purpose too. But could you give me some actual examples of how we're using that diversity lens within the math systems?
I think that the best way to answer it, it really is specific to the school and the classroom, right? And so what is the literature? And a lot of the teachers that you'll see elementary, even at the secondary, it's where they are tying their mathematics into the books that they are bringing into the math classroom. So when we were asked about what does that look like across the diverse strands or subjects, you'll also see it in science. You'll also see a lot of schools bringing it in classrooms where they are able to bring in the diversity across the science, and where does that show in math? And where is that being brought out through the literature and the textbook or mentor text that they're using to be able to offer this for students? I don't have a title at the tip of my tongue, I have to apologize for that, but I know that what I'm seeing and what we're hearing, and even working with the literacy department, is how do we bring in those texts that offer up this multitude and global competencies for exactly that type of thing.
If I could just add, we've seen a lot where it's dependent on the individual teacher or the classroom, which leads to unfair distribution. I'm hoping that somewhere along the line, we're gonna put in more formal structures so that all teachers have access to the information to make their class inclusive.
Right, and I would say that part of the work with the equity department and CCPI is certainly moving along in that direction as well. I would agree with you.
Sorry, Michelle, I think I cut you off.
No, I was just gonna say, because you were saying a resource, the Sankofa, resources, the Sankofa texts are, a lot of, schools, have access to those. Not, I would not say all schools, but a lot of schools have access to those, and we, and my team are going into schools that we serve, and really trying to, work with educators and school teams on using those texts in order to bring out, mathematical understanding from different perspectives.
Hi, can I just add to your thinking as well? So when I think about humanizing the space or program, it's because dehumanizing is humanize, and therefore we have to humanize it because it hasn't happened in the past, or it's currently not happening. And so I guess my question is there a focus on decolonization of math programming and math learning and teachers' understanding of that and how that plays out in classrooms? Kind of goes back to what you're kind of sharing.
So when you look at the Indigenous education rights and policy and procedure and then the human rights, that's a part of it. And decolonizing the space is really about offering multiple ways to not just demonstrate my understanding, but for me to actually present it to you. So one way, is taking math outside. I'm gonna use like a really simple thing. I didn't learn math outside, but wow, it's powerful outside. And so being able to align that with Western ideals and Indigenous concepts of understanding of nature, that is certainly a decolonization of math for sure. And taking us away from the idea of rote mathematics, that it's just about being able to bring up those times tables, which I have to say, my mom had those flashcards for me in grade 4. It might have done me some good, but there's a lot of tears attached to that. I don't think that was very humanizing for me as a child. And what can I do as a teacher to make sure that I'm offering opportunities for children to be able to express their math and their love of math in a way that brings them joy, right? So it's definitely about that. The big piece is also taking us away from where do we see mathematics? It's not just about the math on a piece of paper, that the decolonization really is about the talk, right? It's really about showing us where the observations as well as the conversations come into play. So how many times have we been able to have a really rich mathematical conversation about our learning? And not just about, can you do your times table, right? They're important, it's a concept, it's a content and knowledge, but we need to really grow beyond that. So those are the pieces for me that stand out, and how teachers are really looking at where does math bring joy and where can they be creative. And that math is very creative, right? We see it in art, or you see it in music. Children that have a good music background do really well in math, right? Those, if we can bring out the love of math and show it in art, that's decolonizing what we think is math being very stoic. So for me, offering those opportunities as it aligns to the love and the strength of a child, that's where we'll see the power of it come through.
Yeah. So I think we're centering out just on terms of time, the last question, and then.
Just considering practical application, at what age do we start using practical applications with our children?
JK. Right away, right? Where is it, like recipes, cooking, talking, grocery store, everything, right? Like math is around us all the time. And it's naming it, and it's pointing it out, like that's, my grandson is 2. He doesn't know it, but he's having math conversations with Yaya, right? Like that's where it is. It's like really bringing in the joy and, oh, this is new math. No, that's not. No, you can't do it. The math is the same. It's how we approach it, and it's bringing out that love of the conversations. Most of the problem solving, where we were sort of thinking it was all about the thinking and then putting it on paper, is really about the conversations. And so what does that look like for multilingual language learners, right? We encourage students to tell us their math learning in their language, right? Nothing says that it has to be in one language, right? So what are we offering up in a way that matters to them, that they can express it in a manner that brings them joy, and also and they're able to give it to the degree of accuracy and precision that they're really proud of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
may I just one more thing? And also I think, because I'm kindergarten at heart, sometimes we have little kiddos that come in that are nonverbal, and it's really also the learning opportunities that we offer, the materials that we offer, where they can stay still and we mathematize the environment and mathematize the world around us, and they still but us as educators seeing the math that they are showing and doing, and being able to offer the language to go along with that for those kids, and noticing for all of the kids whether they are able to verbalize it or not.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you very much. Obvious from questions and comments, this was very much well received and very engaging and really cool. I would be super curious to see what a manipulative to do trigonometry would be.
Well,
Cause I saw all those and I'm like, that's what my kid's doing, so those are all great things.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
I'm stuff, I'm like, he's not doing trick or treat.
I'm so happy that you could see your child in that, because that's really what it's about, right?
Thank you so very, very much.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Have a good night.
It was nice meeting you all.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, item number 9, open discussion experience. So, we talked about, we don't have the placement and the board's general law, but we do have an updated draft of the presentation letters on that. Did we want to, we added all of people's comments from, people have given in there, so this is sort of like, this is our final draft, ready for
As
review.
far as, the one thing I just noted was that I'd really like to have, I think I mentioned it, but I didn't put it in on there myself, was have OSPA's, on there as well, as far as that is concerned. There's a whole list of people we have there, but, I tried to capture, when it came to asks. So trying to have this in here, but I got asked to really clarify what I thought the asks were. Please, so that was the major change as far as that was concerned, and I fixed other comments, errors and so forth in there. And what I did too, though, is have a call with a couple of my colleagues and advocates within the education sector, and so that's where I was told that it's not only a good idea to send it to the minister, but send it to the two other, the deputy minister as well as the assistant deputy minister acting at this point in time. So yeah, and then also that's why we added the maxi chair, because even though we don't hear a lot from them, they apparently are doing some work behind the scenes that sometimes we don't hear about, but it's important that it goes there. So anyways, yeah, that's it. Hoping that it's a long one, but I think it needs to be as long as it is in order to relay and make people understand what we're talking about, because it is a complex subject as far as trying to get it into it. So.
Any comments, questions? Anybody have any feedback that they didn't get a chance to give to John? Offline? Since we're now, I think we included all of the comments.
I read it before we came, I'm like,
Okay.
this is good.
Good. All right. So do we need some motion? Yes, okay, so, with no other comments around, do we want to put forward a motion to submit the letter, I guess, is that the correct term? Can I get a motion? Senator Renette, seconds. Rowan, all in favor? Done. Thank you, Donna, appreciate you putting pen to paper.
Much appreciated, just so you know that once it gets drafted and gets sent in, I do have an Ontario Public School Board Association meeting next week.
Perfect.
So as long as it's been sent and an official letterhead, I will bring it to their awareness at that meeting as well.
Beautiful, thank you. Yes,
Eva offered before she flew out, that should the letter be approved tonight, and should there be comfortability around the table, she is very comfortable with Tara signing tomorrow, so that these would be able to move forward with distribution. That's the little SEAC. Eva said she was very comfortable with that.
great. Perfect. All right, that is item number 9. Item number 10, this is rising from the minutes. So talking about our advocacy event In our last meeting, we talked about potential dates. Lisa, you were going to look at venues and see what date was going to be possible.
So I have booked rooms that we requested last time
Okay.
in the board office.
Okay.
For all of those dates.
Okay.
So I can't hold them
Indefinitely.
indefinitely
Okay.
because other people need them, so we
Okay.
land on a date.
Okay, all right, so all 3 dates are fine at the moment. Oh, good lord, checking the calendar, okay. So the 3 dates that we kind of came up with, so, and, Lord, we had some conversations around, we wanted it to be close to our times, because if we were talking about our advocacy event as really sort of focusing on the IDP and the IPRC sort of conversation, which usually falls around 30 days into the school year. We wanted to give it sort of timeliness of those conversations, but enough time that not everybody's completely overwhelmed with the start of school year. So we sort of figured the last week, so we've got Tuesday, the 24th of September, Wednesday, the 25th of September, and then October 1st which would be the following Tuesday. So are there any heck no's, yes pleases, or do we just put a vote through on that? 24th, Tuesday, September 24th, Wednesday, September 25th, Tuesday, October 1st. Wednesdays, Tuesdays, promise, Jen? Oh, I'm sorry, I saw your hand out there.
I prefer Tuesdays instead of Wednesdays.
Yes, I knew you were gonna say that.
You have Wednesdays.
Or
No, okay, just that one.
Oh, sorry, just that one.
I apologize.
All right,
I prefer the first rather than the 24th.
okay. So Tuesday, October 1st, any dissenters? Tuesday, October 1st it is. Thank you, Lisa. Perfect, okay. That's great, October 1st. Great. Moving on to item number 11, association reports and committee reports. We've been doing a sort of series every meeting, monthly meeting, bringing our various community agencies around the table and to be able to provide their lens and just sort of give an opportunity for everybody to have a chance to say, this is who we are and this is what we do. So this month, Rowan has very graciously offered to bring his association to the forefront. So without further ado, thank you, Rowan.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your time. It's been a little exciting to tell people about the Learning Disability Association in the region and what we do. So I will do that. If you'll indulge me, I'll start off by explaining a little bit about learning disabilities themselves, what they are and what they are not. I have a very small mini workshop to put you in the shoes of a young child going through something with respect to learning disabilities. And hopefully you can get a sense, just for a moment, of what they endure, and then we'll speak to our services and how we go assist that student and that student and their families. Who are we? Learning Disabilities Association is a charitable nonprofit organization dedicated to children, youth, and adults that have learning disabilities. We are one of 14 chapters that represent all of Ontario. Our mission statement is to advocate, support, and educate the Durham community with respect to learning disabilities, and for those that have learning disabilities, to empower them to reach their fullest potential. What is a learning disability? Learning disabilities, or LDs as they're often referred to, it's basically a brain-based difficulty, the way that affects the way that information comes in, or is either stored or remembered, or in the same fashion, the way that we use or receive verbal or nonverbal information. But in essence, it's just the way we process information. It does occur in people with average or above average thinking and reasoning abilities. So there's a misunderstanding of, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, I can't read, quote unquote, therefore I am not smart. This proves that that is not the case, they just don't have the correct tools. Learning disability, it's a specific learning disorder as per the DSM-5, which is essentially just a healthcare manual that helps healthcare individuals determine what is different types of diagnosis for different types of mental disorders. What they've realized is it is separate from intellectual disorder as well as developmental, neurological, and motor. LDs are not caused by environmental factors such as language or socioeconomic status, but it does often compound the impact of an LD. LDs can interfere with, as we know, basic learning skills, such as reading, writing, and math. So we used to call it arithmetic. It also interferes with higher level skills such as organization, time management, and social communication skills. What you want to remember is that LDs differ from person to person. So it's a matter of understanding that person's pattern of learning disabilities. Once you've established that and understand that, then you can design effective strategies to help that individual for compensation, get to where they need to get to. Types of LDs. As a function of time, I'm going to read through all of these, but there is the dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. What I will tell you with respect to, some people have a general idea of what dyslexia is, and it does differ for different people, but what I would take away from this slide is what dyslexia is to reading, dysgraphia is to writing, dyscalculia is to math learning. Okay, if you need more information on that, ever just reach out to us. Before we switch to the next slide, this is the, there was a gentleman by the name of Richard Lavoie back in 1989, I believe, who was a teacher dedicated towards learning of individuals with LDs. So he created a workshop, brought in basically the team that represents a student, teachers, CERTs, psychologists, parents, and had them walk a mile through the shoes of the child. And so I want to just do that very quickly today. I have a document. It is basically something I want you to read the first 2 lines. And when you have some challenges, and I will go and read it to you, I will show you what we see as opposed to what they see. But I want you to picture yourself, say you're in grade 5. All your classmates are reading out loud. They don't have any obvious challenges. Your teacher does not understand what you're going through. And there are no assistive technologies to help you out. There's no resources because you don't know what's going on. You just know you're turning to the left and Susan to the right. We're able to read their portions, but you struggle with yours. So, stepping into the shoes of the exceptional child. Sometimes with dyslexia, again, this, as I said, it varies from person to person, but in this particular situation, there's difficulties with the B's and the D's, back and forth, with the P's and the Q's, back and forth, and with the chunking of where words end and new words begin. So I will read this to you, I'll read it slowly. Come on, said Betsy. We have to pick, that's a P, upside down, up this corn. We don't, that Q is a D, have another can of popcorn. Q's being P's, P's being P's. I'll stop there. Difficult, I would imagine, for most people. And these are the challenges that these students go through. You know, they might have different types of learning disability, but to have to read this on a daily basis when everyone else is reading, next slide, please. When everyone else is reading this, you know, what they see. So their filter is just different. They're not less smart, they just see things differently. So it's a matter of taking resources and putting them to this child, but this child doesn't know that. They're just going home, they don't know. The parents themselves are confused. They're not getting what they expect from their child, what they want from their child. They think their child is trying hard enough. Different cultures, I know my background, as Jamaican, sometimes people say, you're not working hard enough, you need to work harder, and they don't realize it's not a matter of strength, it's just a matter of putting that focus where it belongs. So what do? They reach their parents, and their parents usually reach out to someone like ourselves. So what does the Learning Disability Association do to the Durham region? Well, we advocate to learn LD individuals by participating in groups such as this, SEAC for both the public and the Catholic schools. We host workshops on a variety of topics with respect to LD, anything from advocacy to assistive technology, things of that nature. It does fit various, and if there's ever community members that want specific topics, sometimes we can work that in as well. We do have a monthly resources and events newsletter. Resource facilitation is big. We have examples of different types of evidence-based literary strategies that they can look at. We also offer advocacy, which you can see there, and it generally starts off with a call from a concerned parent saying, "I don't know what's going on with my child," and that's fine. It's great that they came to us, and that's why we want to get our name out. Once they come to us, then it's a matter of, okay, what's going on, let's figure out the right strategies, see if we can get them diagnosed, and now here's the strategies to be able to. All this is done by a dedicated group, a strong but mighty 4 volunteers. The other 3 individuals are great. I'm happy to be a part of the team with them, and we do what we can and help those who make the call, and hopefully just provide more knowledge and understanding to the people in Durham that just don't quite know what's going on and need some assistance to guide them in the right direction. The next slide will say, illustrate that it's not just whoever's watching, it's not just you. It happens to different people, and there's levels of success that you can reach. It's just a slide. So these are some celebrities that have learned skills. Jennifer Aniston, yes, all these people have managed to find the resources and tools to allow them to move forward to reach their level of success. There are a couple billionaires on there, myself. The Fonz is on there. So, these are cool people. But I just want everyone to know that it is possible with these learning abilities with the correct resources and support, you can become successful as well. And these are our contact information. Anyone has any questions?
Questions for Rob? Donna?
I know, I've done this for years, and the LTAO, the Durham chapter, has been in SEAC for the longest, so I know, and very strong advocates, and I know that when it comes to a parent, that they don't necessarily have a diagnosis, but they need an in and so forth, and I'm not talking about a medical diagnosis like an intellectual disability or whatever. I often refer them to your association, and especially when it comes to, I know we offer a lot of, as I said, workshops for parents. Just even to start, because I think you do offer about, what an IPRC is, what an IEP is, and those things, and that I often do refer them to your associate as a start, because I know it's a consistent resource where other associations don't have that ability to do it all the time. And so in some ways I apologize, but in other ways it's support I really do appreciate with what you do for our community members.
I think it's not always one step to reach that level. Sometimes you do have to go to a couple different locations, and if we're unable to support them directly, then we will definitely support them indirectly by figuring out who's the next step to get them where they need to be and then provide that information. But if we're able to help directly, then no problem necessary. I would need to think about parents who doesn't get to that next step and is just doesn't know what's going on, and their kids don't know what's going on, and that's stressing.
Because I know when a parent does identify their child and what the disability is at that point in time, then I will direct them, to autism and so forth, and I have sent, and so forth. But it's really, I know specifically that the LDAO Durham chapter has been very strong on having that consistent there, whereas some other chapters, the other associations, we don't necessarily have that consistent there to support parents and advocacy. think that that's where, you know, we maybe as individual associates, we look how we can sort of strengthen that collaboratively, so that we can support all our students. That is difficult.
And I think we do our best as in the chapters within Ontario, but I'll tell you, it varies from, let's say, York, I'll get York, which is probably a team of at least 20 paid full-time employees. And so I have to double check, has one person and they're volunteer. And so I know there's one full-time paid, but there's one full-time volunteer, I know for an entire area. So yeah, it challenges, but you know, but that's what we do here as volunteers, right? We see a need and we try to help out as best we can and be a voice for the community. So if it's one but mighty, then so be it.
I've got an idea spinning in my head after that conversation, but anyways.
No, that was really good. Thank you very much, Rob. That, the analogy to dyslexia, my husband's actually dyslexic, so, but then dysgraphia and then dyscalculia. Oh, I get that now.
Yeah.
I can kind of equate that. That's super helpful. Thank you. Awesome. So with that, who would like to volunteer for next month? I know, rock, even I will rock, paper, scissors. I think we'll do. We can do that. All right. Yeah,
I was just gonna say that, you know, presentations like that, as far as having that link available to parents as well, is really crucial. Who can, you know, I know we have our SEAC, but those resources are really, really beneficial to our parents. Because I can honestly tell you, the number of calls I've had, I'm talking about. Do you remember, I said, do you receive the parent guide? And I go, oh, I never remember that. And it's amazing where I was, okay, I'll send you the link. I'll send you the link. I'll send you the link. and so now I've got all the links, I just copy paste, so that I don't have to keep up with it. Because that's the biggest thing, this information is really, really key.
So I was going to ask, one thing that is when you're dealing with the family, I can only see from our perspective, is some families want you to just do it all for them, take this load on, and it's a matter, that's where the advocacy component is, showing them how to advocate for themselves. And then it's not that the family member doesn't want to do it, it's just they don't know where to start. So by helping them advocate for them, giving them the knowledge, oh, okay, now I feel comfortable moving forward. So I think that's sometimes a paradigm shift for the parents to let them know, listen, no, we can't just do everything for you, but here's the steps you need that you can do everything, but we're always here for the kids.
that's very powerful. All right, thank you. Moving on then. You don't have any other association reports or anything? Nope. Great. Item number 12, correspondence. We have two. So I guess we can talk about the Human Rights Advisory Committee. Newsletter, what the? Yes, please, Andrea.
There are currently two committees that are for call for expression of interest of community members live on our website. And they're both committees of the district to help inform really critical work of the district. One is with the framing around a Human Rights Advisory Committee looking for members, and the other is around advisory committee around anti-Black racism. And so that call for membership, there's an idea of what the committee kind of framework is a little bit, and that call for interest posted on the board's website. We can also send both links out to SEAC for interest or sharing.
That's great. And then the second piece of correspondence is for Easter seals. We have Ray, actually to have someone, Allison, they have a new nomination for Easter Seals. I do note though that in their letter, they did not provide an alternate. So, I know, right? So, knowing that we are definitely missing Mr. Silver on the table, did we want to maybe provisionally say if they can give us an alternate, then yes? And then we can kind of get it through the motions, getting it through to, board versus the back and forth, trying to find.
We would have to receive the alternate before we could take it forward. What we were wondering is if on premise of, that they have provided interest and, identified a qualifying representative, if based on that, when an alternate is provided, just so that we're not sitting waiting for a SEAC meeting, we would notify you and provide documentation that an alternate had been received, and confirm the decision, but we would not be able to move it as a recommendation for board until the alternate is confirmed.
But that's basically what I was going to say, because, the first question I would ask is, where's the alternate, right?
Okay,
And it has to be a name, like, you
yes,
can't just say,
not just
no, it has
to be known,
to
to
be a name.
be named, bigger person.
Yes, as far as that, and again, that's really key in the studies, sales, know that better,
Comments? Discussion? Yes, no?
so you need basically a motion.
Essentially, I guess, are we okay that as long as we get an alternate, then we would approve Easter Seals?
So make a
To make recommendation to the board, yes.
Yeah, so basically, we
Step
can-
one and step two.
we can basically, as a board, approve the recommendation to the board that to accept Allison Emer as the SEAC member for Easter Seals in the provision that they provide as an alternate name, at that time.
Motion, Senator McDonald said, okay. Seconds? Liz? All in favor? Pass. Ray. Okay, please, hopefully they can find an alternate. That would
Would you
be-
like to accept that?
Yes, please, if you could, and then we can get that straight. The word, as long as it does. Okay. So that is item number 13, any community concerns, conversations that you would like to put on the table?
Just the concerns I think again is about the school, the placements as far as the classes opening, closing, the rumors as usual at this point in time. The class is closing, don't know what's happening, so hopefully some of that can be, as the month proceeds, that some of that can be alleviated for our anxious parents. Or
Anyone else? Okay, then moving on to item number 14, celebrations and successes.
Absolutely. So just at this time of year, as we prepare for, end of year and transition celebrations for students, a couple things to make SEAC aware of. So as a senior team, we do gather a composite of grade 12 graduation dates, shared with our trustees, with the commitment that we're all out celebrating. A number of our secondaries run concurrent. Secondary completion ceremonies for students for whom a large number of people would be overwhelming. We are just in the process of gathering those from our teams. And then we will be sharing those with you as well. They're absolutely magical. In that, spoke with a couple of grade 12 clusters last week who are quite excited and apprehensive about what comes next, but knowing that they've got people alongside them, which was really wonderful. And as well, part of how we're moving inclusion as a district, because you see it in the corners and the spaces, similar to the questions asked tonight around how does it show up consistently? So a commitment to addressing ableism, a commitment to centering identity. How does that flow through to all the spaces and places. And so in partnership with Durham Regional Police, this week is the week of suits and gowns for grads. And I think some of that changeover, it used to be gowns for girls. It is gowns for grads. And having been there last night, tonight's the second night for that event. It is a representation of students who are looking forward to celebrating. Lots of great family moments. I had the pleasure of being a sub-in seamstress last night for some alterations. My apologies to our children's aid partners as I walked in half an hour late to their community report back because we need to finish for the alterations. Lots of great family moments, lots of adults supporting kids, either from school teams bringing them or families bringing them. It fills the gym at GL Roberts, one entire length and one entire width, with the racks perpendicular to the walls, not running along the walls. Shoes, purses, and the kids get dress bags when they make their final selection. It is a team of our secondary fashion students that does the alterations. Last night was their teacher's birthday and she was there for 4 hours doing alterations because that's what you do at this time of year. And the reason why stuck around just a little bit longer than I was supposed to is one young lady had made a beautiful selection that just looked fabulous on her. And we needed to fit it to her so that the wheels of her chair were not encumbered and that the crinoline wasn't going to be harsh on her legs during the journey. So that just brings, like, when you see kids find the outfit that they want to wear to feel good about all of the hard work that has come in front of that, it is quite a moving event. And so people were walking around going, thanks for volunteering. I'm like, oh no, this is selfish. This is like, this is joy. And so I just wanted to send a thank you out to the teams that put that together, because it's a lot to put that together. And I think it makes such an impact in how we celebrate our kids and help them feel good about the celebrations that they work so hard to achieve. So to share that today, but that's awesome. Yeah, trying our best and I think we got her hooked up, so. Yes, and the abilities track meet has been confirmed for June 14th, right, 14th, at the Oshawa Civic Field. So if you want to put that in your agendas, that's a Friday. Kids walk, roll, run, jump, hike, throw. It is an incredible day and you're absolutely more than welcome. The bulk of the event's opening ceremonies are at 10:30. And we're just working on how late the buses can roll. We may need to run it as a 3-4 hour event to meet tier 1 of our busing, but working on that. So if you're between 10:30 and 12:30 or 1, you will see phenomenal athletes and their care staff and from the board and their families. It is one of our favorite days of the school year. We do send, just so that we can make a connection, there's staff in inclusive student services that get to see the impact because they're right beside kids in schools. We highlighted social work earlier today. There are other team members who are absolutely essential in delivery of programs and services, but they don't necessarily get to see the children. We leave one volunteer from our clerical team back on the abilities track and field meet, just so that families still have somebody picking up the phone. And the rest of our clerical team is helps run all of the field events alongside facilitators and teachers who've got hard of hearing and low vision loads to support. Most of the field event is run by ISS staff, and our athletic association runs most of the track events. So if you have time on that day, it will fill your hearts. The kids are incredible.
I always attend. I always try to pop in and spend walk around, and it's a phenomenal event to see our students and have what a great, and also the staff just having a wonderful time. And those that have participated over the years, they have all their tents set up. They have it down to the science as far as ensuring that they run and they stake their claims as far as put up their tents, and it's really a really enjoyable time.
So June 4th. Catcher. So thank you for those are, yesterday was also the basketball tournament for elementary students in practical learning programs in Oshawa. They converge on Seneca Trail to host the event. Kids come from all over the Oshawa area. One young man a few years ago expressed that his peers, when he was in integration, would go away for the weekend and come back with tournament t-shirts. And then he really wanted a tournament t-shirt. And so the school in that year made tournament t-shirts, and it is an annual commitment. So when you walk into the gym, all of the kids are in their basketball tournament shirts. And they run a game on one side and skills on the other, so everybody can find their place. And I thought one of the most beautiful comments was from school principal John McLeod, who said, "It's great that we host it here. Our school floor plan is similar to that of which so many of the students are coming from, so they know where to go. And our sensory rooms are in similar places, and it just had really opened up school to be authentically welcoming from an inclusion perspective. When I went through the front door, Connor was already there, checking on some kids. I know Mike Bowman, the family school superintendent, had already been through as well. The principal of Bobby Orr, Joe, was doing part of the gross motor sensory break for a student who needed a tumbling wheel. And so Joe was like, "Sorry, I can't talk, we gotta go." And the two of them were in motion down the hallway together. And then just before I left, Joe was actually on the bench coaching the team from Bobby Orr. So really nice investment of staff, the deep appreciation to the present team at Seneca Trail. They're the ones that run it alongside their inclusive student services staff, and the kids and staff at Seneca Trail for being so welcoming to athletes from across Oshawa. Yesterday was a good day.
That's awesome. Anyone else, any celebrations or successes? I don't have an Adam story today.
No?
No, I have a James story, if you're okay with that, which is my younger son.
Yes.
So he got the opportunity, so science, my nerd is very, very fulfilled with this. We got to go to the Durham Regional Ontario Skills Science Competition that they were holding at the Tribute Center at the beginning of April. So he and his team were selected to represent their grade sevens for Lakeside. And so they went down there for the day and had a great time, and they ended up getting second place. So it was a great time. So they had a good time with it was basically green energy was their topic. So they had to build basically a windmill. And so they had to design the blades and the actual structure and that sort of thing. So then they would measure the voltage of the output of this windmill. And yeah, so it was really cool, but it was really neat to sort of see that they graded, or I'm gonna say judged them on all the different aspects. Like they actually had a design diagram, so they had to explain that, and then going into the conversation about what did they do, their methods of trial and error, all that sort of as part of the judging of it. So which was really great. So they got 80. Their max voltage was 84 volts, and the winning team got 86 volts. So very close, but it was a good time.
What grade is this?
He was grade 7. So, but they had like I went down there for an hour or so just to go cheer it on, but I nerded out so hard. It was so fun. There was like 4 to 6 there, and it looked like they were playing Hungry Hippos with like little excavators of the Lego Technique stuff. It was great. The grade 8s were doing like microbit coding. So they had, so the main floor were, general supplies, so on ice level, and then all around the concourse, they had stuff, and they had like digital photography, and you could just go in there and just look at what all the kids were doing, and it was just amazing. It was so cool to sort of see, I was like, yay, my boy's in there, yay for science. Being quite the athletic inclined child, and so this was sort of his first academic achievement, so I was like, yes, this is so cool, science is great, keep going. So he was very proud of himself. So yeah, it was really fun.
It's not really a success, but I'd like to share an experience that we had a Central East hospitality at Simcoe County District School Board Outdoor Center. We spent the first couple hours outside in their leadership outdoor course sort of thing. And so basically did a lot of questioning around how they support and integrate in these leadership courses for their students with disabilities, and it just so happened that, because I have an ear problem right now, I have balance as an issue. So it was, they split us up in groups, and went around, and one was this, we had to balance the platforms, because it's like basically a plus sign sort of thing, and we had to balance, and of course, there's no way I could stand it there. And it was just the way the facilitators integrated everything else. They said, well, you could sit in the middle if you want, and sort of thing, because I couldn't balance, since I had a ride, while the rest of my peers, the other trustees, were trying to balance this and then talk together and show the leadership skills. I said it very kindly. Anyways, but it was really, really a great experience. So I had a really long conversation on how that is integration. And then I also saw the map. We had, there was 3 different pulleys, and we had to do this bucket as far as they considered toxic waste that we couldn't get. We had to hook it up and put it, there's 3 posts, but the different pulleys had different size pulleys, so you're talking about ratios and everything else like that, and the swing and stuff, so it was really, really cool. And then so it was a really, really great day, but also to have that conversation, to see how well they connect the outdoor space, Indigenous learning, as well with, and varying the activities to meet the skills of the individuals. So it was a really, really great event. Wonderful center. It's only been up for about a year at this point. I think just a little over a year, but just a phenomenal place to go. And so now it begs to say, okay, gotta go see Durham's Outdoor Center and see what exactly what it, but it was specifically a leadership course. We had various mission stations, but out in this acreage of beautiful land behind them.
Very cool.
I also have another story, but Victoria wouldn't like it public, but it's a great story.
Oh, man. Anyone else? No? Okay, well, then next SEAC meeting is May 23rd.
I'm going to send my regrets right now.
Okay.
To let everybody know I'm at the spring games in Guelph at that time, so I will not be here.
All right, our next meeting is May 23rd. Can I get a motion to adjourn? We're good. Seconds? Spencer Riddell, all in favor? Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.